This video showcases the community broadband project that was undertaken by the Argaty and Kilbryde community. The project area is a dispersed community with the majority of premises located in a small clusters along single-track roadsides. Many of these properties are not connected to the main utilities such as water and gas and instead rely on their own private water supply and oil for heating. There is therefore little opportunity or likelihood for any major development that would expand community to such an extent that a fast fiber broadband solution would be considered economical by the current national suppliers. As these premises are over 2 kilometers from the nearest telephone exchange or roadside cabinet, they are subject to signal degradation due to long line lengths. This results in the premises in the community struggling to get even a basic broadband service. The community realized the need for good, future-proofed communication and broadband is essential for the growth and indeed the very existence of the community. The area has long been excluded from effective modern communication services because of restrictions in technology, high costs, and distance logistics issues. The social, economic, and educational growth of the area has been significantly hampered. Local home-run and small businesses struggle to keep pace, and many new people are discouraged from moving to the area because of this shortfall.
It was probably the same reason that a lot of people in the country, rural area like this, we suffered from basically hardly any broadband facilities at all. We were getting on a daily basis an average of 0.9 megabits per second, which wasn't even acceptable for a family when you consider that nowadays people want to stream movies and whatever, besides doing online shopping and looking at other websites. And that's been the case for many years, and there was no option of anything coming from British Telecom in particular, because of the cost of giving us cable. So at that time I did some exploring and got in touch with Jamie at Brascona, and from there discussions went, and we put in touch with Sean Marley at Stirling Council, because obviously there was no point in really looking at a project in any seriousness until you got the financial support. So we went with Sean, and he explained what was perhaps available in grant terms, and that started the ball rolling.
Probably a number of kind of stages. First one is looking what was kind of possible. So went back, had a look at the area and found out, was there any infrastructure that was around there? Was there any suppliers going to go back and do anything that the community could maybe kind of tap into, or maybe it was already going to get built? I think in the idea for the Argaty kind of project, there was nothing that was available. There was no fibre that was nearby. It was going to have to probably come back, and the best solution for them was going to be kind of wireless. I think then as the group as well, to allow them to go and get funding, is to make sure that they had all the rules and regulations. So I had to go back and help them assist and become the community actually become a legal kind of entity, so they could apply for funding, to make sure that they had a bank account, to make sure that they had a constitution that was in place, so they were actually acting not just on a couple of individuals, but they were acting on behalf of the whole kind of community. Then probably one of the most probably vital stages there was engagement, so actually going around and speaking with the wider kind of community, having a look at doing, so we went back, we undertook a survey, initially went around every kind of house that was in the area, actually saying, would you like this kind of broadband, what would you be willing to pay for that? If the group came about and they actually were successful with the project, that they would go and you would subscribe to a kind of service. I think following that as well is we then did a number of public kind of meetings. So we actually had in the Kite Centre, the visitor centre, for 2 evenings. We took that kind of over. We invited people from the community to come in, explain what the project would be, allow them to ask any kind of questions about what the kind of technology, what options that they had in that particular area. Once we had there, then it looked like yes, there was a need for any kind of community is to help actually the group get kind of funding. So go back, write the application forms, find out the various sources of funding from them. So the main funding came back from the Stirling Council Rural Infrastructure kind of fund, but there was also stuff coming from kind of government's Better Broadband scheme. So actually making sure all that kind of funding that was in place. And also then from there building up a business case for them. From there is then letting them go back and appoint a suitable kind of supplier. One of the options they first looked at is it says we can maybe go back and do this project themselves, but then they thought it was a bit too technical. We really need to get someone to work and create a partnership. So what we did, we went through a procurement kind of process with them, and then we actually appointed a supplier that could go back and put the network up. Then finally is they go back and then they just do the kind of build of the kind of network. So we actually, once we had everything in place, the money was in place, and they'd actually got some supplier they're working with partnership. It's almost helped kind of project manage that kind of project to go to the build stage, so they can go back and have that kind of connected.
It was then a case of right, we're going to need finance, we're going to need some land for mass and that sort of thing, and that's when we brought Neil Bowser in, and we opened up a bank account, we applied for a grant, we got a grant. Financial support was the foundation. Without finance, the project was going nowhere. So it was a case of investigating grants available from Stirling. Once there was that possibility, then we had to open bank account, and we had to understand the procedure for applying for the grant and how we then deal with outside suppliers of this particular technology. So having done all that, we then went ahead, and Broadband were very helpful in drawing up the schematic of what the project could be, how it would operate, what was needed, what the project plan was going to look like, and we took it from there, from that point onwards. We got the grant, and we then initiated work with Broadband, who undertook the actual creation of the infrastructure, the physical infrastructure that was required in terms of mass, in terms of radios, in terms of antennae, and goodness knows what. That was done through a very tricky, cold, wet Christmas winter period, the first properties started going online beginning of January, which was excellent. The project was completed on time, on budget, and it's now a case of completing the rest of the installations in terms of linking it to the properties. All the infrastructure is in place.
So the solution for Argaty Kite Centre was actually to bring in a 5 GHz fixed wireless solution, which is actually allowing us guys to bridge the divide between Stirling and this rural area, which is obviously Doon and Dunblane. So in order to put this plan together, we actually have deployed a 17.5 kilometre link from our Alloa Clipmanager base up onto a rural site above Stirlingshire, and then from there we've actually taken another symmetrical 17.5 kilometre link, bridging that divide from the fibre to the local mast.
The benefits to our business here and the Red Kite Visitor Centre is that visitors will be able to send the pictures of what they're seeing, what they're enjoying straight away, rather than taking them home and then tweeting them on or Facebooking. It'll make their experience much more immediate, and that of course is more attractive to the people who read their messages and view their images.